Had the fortune of playing in a World Cup and an Olympics. It is the thing that my family and my wife have cared more about than anything else in the history that I accomplished, is that I was 30 down in the crossword. And then in the Sunday one, I was like, what happened?
I mean, just to be clear, literally thousands of people have played in a World Cup or played in the Olympics. How many people have been in the Sunday crossword? I mean, I don't know.
It's a prime spot. I didn't know.
Yeah. It was a key. Some people.
Wait, Nick, hold on. Did you get this one right at least?
Of course I got it right.
Okay, good. All right.
I mean, that's my result. Some people finished it by typing in STU.
Wow.
It's an all-timer. Great. I'm honored.
Man,
Honest to God, I'm honored.
Honestly, I'm so jacked up how excited you were about
I was
that.
so excited.
I'd be happy to talk about that. We can go talk about the Pacers as well. What do we got?
Wow. Stu, big picture. You've called a few World Cups. What is this one going to mean in your home country?
I have goosebumps thinking about it, guys. I was at SoFi Stadium a couple months ago for a game, and I was standing there. The stadium was sold out, and I was picturing what that is going to be like next summer. American crowd everywhere in the U.S. kicking off a home World Cup. This is going to be I heard Alexi with you guys the other day. This is going to be the biggest sporting event the planet has ever seen. But to have it here in our backyard in the United States, I'm excited for myself, selfishly. I'm excited for us, but also for my kids to be able to go to these games. 3 different countries, 48 teams, 104 matches. It's going to consume everything over those 3 countries next summer. It's going to be a tidal wave of soccer, and we're going to hit you in the face with it constantly.
All right, let's kind of go small picture to the game Sunday. We do don't take this wrong way, Wilds. Something kind of silly on this show, must win. They're not really must wins, but they could be must wins. Emotional must wins. I look at Sunday as a literal must-win for U.S. soccer because they're the better side, because they're on a 4-game losing streak, because they need some level of positive momentum after what's been a really rough couple of months. Do you agree with me?
I absolutely agree with you. I think that's the hard thing in sports sometimes, right? We try to quantify the stakes of any given game at any given moment. And the reality is if the U.S. lose this match against Trinidad on Sunday, it's not going to change realistically how they do next summer at the World Cup. But we've all been in sports a long time. One of the most underrated things, I think, is momentum and having a confidence as a team. Right now, this U.S. team, when they step on the field, I don't think they believe in themselves that they're as good as they probably are or their potential is. It's also part of the conversation why I'm frustrated that Christian Pulisic is not a part of this team, because you want your leaders, your stars, setting the tone, setting the momentum. We're playing against a Trinidad and Tobago team that we beat consistently, although one high-profile loss I'm not going to talk about. If we lose on Sunday, it would be catastrophic in terms of how this team is feeling. And Pochettino is this big, high-profile coach. For him to lose 5 games in a row at the head of the U.S. would just be absolutely insane. So I hope the players feel that pressure, and I hope they turn up on Sunday and they give us something to start getting excited about this team.
Well, you mentioned Pulisic not playing, and obviously that, and then the other 9 or 10 other players that aren't playing is the huge storyline. He's gotten a lot of criticism. He's pushed back on it, said it's way out of line. Where do you stand on? Do you feel the criticism is warranted?
Some of it, of course. Look, I would want Christian Pulisic on that field anytime. He's our best player. He's the undoubted star of this team. And I empathize with him on the side of how many games these guys are playing now across all sports and the amount of minutes, the amount of toll it takes on your body. I can't relate to that. When I played the game, it was very different to that. There weren't as many competitions. And he's playing at one of the biggest, most high-profile clubs in all of Europe and making a lot of money for doing that. But outside of that, I think we've shifted away, at least here in the United States. And I think it's a big difference between how we value the national team versus other countries, where it's truly life or death in moments. These guys grew up from the very beginning wanting to represent your country. The biggest thing that you can accomplish as a soccer player is playing in a World Cup. And you don't just get turned up for the World Cup. You have to play in the games as a part of that before that. So it's not that I don't think Pulisic cares. I just don't think it's a priority in the same way that it should be for us to be successful at the highest level.
You played, I mean, through injuries. It's legendary, the injuries you played through, a torn ACL.
4 torn ACLs, if we're counting.
Yeah, so where do you stand on this? Because you could look at it both ways. You could look at it, this is so important that you got to play hurt. Or I understand, you know, taking the rest and making sure your body's healthy going forward for your career.
And I can really only speak for myself personally in this matter. And I played through, I was not 100% heading into the Gold Cup in 2013. And it would have so hard for me to say, you know what, you're not quite ready for this moment. You need to rest your body. Now, in hindsight, that would have been the better move. I played through that tournament, tore my ACL in the Gold Cup final. Injuries are unpredictable. You can't manage. You can't always predict what the amount of load and work rate is going through your body. I know you guys are having this a lot in the NBA right now with load management, and the stars get criticism. We all want to see the stars playing. So maybe Pulisic makes the right move. There's also the same risk that he sits out this summer, goes back to AC Milan. 2 months in, he pulls his hamstring and misses 6 weeks.
Think about that.
And then everybody's going to be like, wow, he took time off. The thing I've noticed about the stars at the biggest level in our sport, Messi, Ronaldo, these guys play so consistently game after game after game. And it's almost as if they stop playing, that's when their body starts to have injuries because they're so conditioned to play at a high level. So I think it's a very fine balance of wanting to have rest and also not taking too much rest to then where you can't get back to that super high level of sport.
So glass half full on Pulisic, right? He's got another year at AC Milan, and we pulled this graphic, Dusty, if you can throw that up, on how good he has gotten, right? It's like, felt like his story was like, oh, Hershey, Pennsylvania, he's going to be great. Goes over to Chelsea, kind of up and down. All of a sudden at AC Milan, he's out here crushing. This is the list of guys with 15 goals and 10 assists in each of the last 2 seasons, some of the best players in the world. If this is largely, let's say, again, glass half full, more of a PR issue than a actual on-the-field issue, how good is Pulisic going to be in this World Cup?
He's a stud. The kid is, look at the company right there. These are some of the best players in global football. Mohamed Salah, Florian Wirtz, Harry Kane, Cole Palmer. These are household name type of players. So to see what an American is doing on that stage, as a former American national team member, it makes me proud. I'm so glad that he's a part of our national team. The problem is he needs a supporting cast. And we have, I would say, 7 or 8 high-level players, but after that, there's a pretty big drop-off from our top-level talent to then those next guys. So for us to, look, against lower-level opposition, and if Pulisic was playing against Trinidad and Tobago on Sunday, I wouldn't put it past him to score a hat-trick against that team.
Awesome.
But what we're trying to set the new standard of soccer in this country is we're trying to measure ourselves against the world elite. And that is Germany, Spain, France, Argentina. There's only 8 nations ever that have won the World Cup, and we're trying to be that 9th team. I think we're still quite a ways off that. You can't just have one Pulisic. You need 10, 11 Pulisics, and that's what France, Argentina, and Spain, those countries have it at that level. But we need to cherish him, and so that's what I think the other side of the argument is, well, we got to get this guy rest. We can't have him hurt because we need him so badly next year.
All right, I want to talk about some of those other teams because I was glued to the Nations League final. It was unbelievable.
It was awesome.
Semifinals
Awesome, yeah.
and finals. I had bet Spain. I thought Spain was going to win. And then there's Portugal and Cristiano Ronaldo. To me, it was shocking, even if the betting line didn't say as much. So I want to talk about both those teams. First of all, Cristiano Ronaldo's going to be 41 or is 41?
40, yeah.
Yeah,
right
40, going to be 41 at the World Cup. Some people argue he's the greatest soccer player ever. Some people say, okay, but you've never won a World Cup and haven't actually come particularly close. If somehow Portugal goes on a miraculous run, first of all, are you giving him a shot to do it? And second of all, what would it do as the capstone of his career?
Oh, my gosh. Can we have a Jordan and LeBron conversation right now, too? I mean, it's the same type of thing, other than the fact that these two are playing in the same generation and at the same time. Ronaldo, I was at that game. I was calling the game and actually ended up eating crow here because about 60 minutes, he turned the ball over 5 times. He looked a step off the pace. He looked every day of 40 years old. And then the ball popped out to him in the box, and you just saw, and he scores the goal that ties the game, and then Portugal end up winning. Great players just have a way of finding and rising to that moment, even when they're having such a bad game. And the dilemma constantly for Portugal is, do we need to start him? Does he need to play every minute? I'm very curious as well to see what Messi's role is next year at the World Cup because he started to have some more injuries. He's slowed down. 2022, he played every minute of almost every game and took his team to the title. But as we know, it might not be fair, and the athletes might not think it's fair, but at the end of people's careers, we judge it on the titles they've won and what they've been able to achieve.
I think it's fair.
And for me, I think Messi is the greatest player of all time, and he had that crowning moment. He won the World Cup for his country. And so I think for Ronaldo to be considered the greatest player of all time, he has to win a World Cup. And if he does that at 40, then it pushes him ahead of Messi.
And then I want to go to the other side of the game, which is Spain, which is inarguably one of the 3 most talented teams in the world, arguably the most talented, and they have a phenom in Yamal, who 17
Ridiculous.
trying to, in a year match Pele as a teenager, leading his team to a World Cup victory, which seemed incomprehensible before Pele and has been incomprehensible since then. Can Yamal become international icon the way Messi and Ronaldo have through a dominant World Cup performance?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to certainly put him in that conversation. I always say this about Yamal, and we got to see him again in person and scoring some of these wonderful goals. The kid is 17 years old. He just signed a new contract at Barcelona. The release clause, just to be able, if you wanted to talk to him, to maybe sign him, $1 billion. By the time his contract is done that he just signed, he would be 22 years old with a chance to go to another team. It's absolutely insane, the pressures and expectations of a kid that is 17 years old and how talented he is. But to be able to achieve and be even in the conversation for me with Messi and Ronaldo, he doesn't have to do it for a year. He doesn't have to do it for 5 years. He's going to have to do it over a 15 to 20-year period. That's how long Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldo, I think career goals-wise is around 1,000 international goals. It's not international, career goals. That's insane. I mean, that's more than most professional players have even played games. So I'm super excited about what Lamine Yamal can do in terms of his potential for Spain. He's a part of a Spanish team as well that is better than teams that I think Messi and Ronaldo certainly had at the younger parts of their career. He's won a Euro. He's won a Nations League as well. Spain are going to be one of the top 2 or 3 favorites for the World Cup next year from a betting perspective. I like that team to win the World Cup.
So I know it's way too early, but do you have can you give us a prediction as to who's going to win this thing?
Well, that's the thing about soccer. There's so many countries and we're going to have the biggest World Cup field ever of 48 teams, but yet there's only ever been 8 teams that have won a World Cup, and it's going to be those teams that are the favorites again. I love Spain. I think I would put them and Argentina as that top 2. France are